up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. Welcome to the George Mossey Show. This is the Pop Culture Podcast. This is episode 8. The last time we were here, we were talking about Stanley Cups. That was like what was hot going on at the moment. Hello to my co-hosts, Heather C. and DeeDee Casteel. How are you ladies doing tonight?
Hey, good.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. There's so much going on. Like, there always is a lot going on, but like lately, I kind of feel like the world went crazy. I remember we kept putting those memes up, and we were asking 2024 to be good to us because 2023 was a lot. I feel like 2024 has been out to get us since it started. Do you feel that way? I feel like nothing has gone right in 2024, and we're seeing horrific, terrible things happen. So on that subject, I know a lot of people are big fans of the show Sister Wives, and we know that their marriage, even though the marriage of certain ones are ending, the show is still on, and we're still kind of watching them separate into separate lives. And there was a horrible tragedy that happened, and Cody and Janelle's son Garrison unfortunately took his own life, and it shocked everyone. No one in the community that watches the show could have known that this was coming. Literally, the story broke, and I went on Instagram. Every person was just literally in shock. Sarah Fraser, who has a podcast, who has an opinion on everything, her post said, "I have no words." And I kind of feel like that's how this hit us. Nobody had any words. We could not believe what we were watching. So I want to send out condolences to Cody and Janelle and the rest of the family during this difficult time. But I want to talk to you about this situation because I know that both of you watch the show. You've been watching it since the beginning. So how do you think this is going to affect the family? Because I know there's a lot of kids involved in the family, and I know there's a lot of drama, but this is real. Like, I hate to put the TV drama mixed in with real life drama. So this is a completely different type of drama.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it's all how everything is starting to like spiral out of control. You know, we've been watching or I have ever since the first show aired. And I've watched the children, you know, as they grow up. I've seen them, you know, the ones that are parents. I've seen them become parents. I've seen, you know, how Cody is with each wife, how he is with the children. And I do know in the last couple of seasons, you know, he has started like becoming estranged from certain children with certain wives, and Garrison was one of them.
Why do you think that happened? Like, why was he estranged from certain wives? Was it because of the relationship with the wives, or was it something else?
You know, I don't understand why he would want a estranged relationship with his children, because no matter what, at the end of the day, no matter what he's going through with either one of his wives, those are his children. And his children shouldn't have to pay for whatever problems or situations he's going through with his wives. But hands down, I believe that, you know, we've all seen how he has favoritism, and he's more into Robin and the children he has with Robin. And it's like he's pushed all of his other wives and all of his other children to the side and put them on the back burner.
Wow. Heather, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about him picking favorites when it comes to his children? Because I know as a mother, I don't know a lot of mothers who don't have a favorite, but they don't, it's usually something they would have to tell you. It's not something that you would be able to figure out, right?
I think that the situation with Cody is that he built himself a lifestyle that he automatically, it backfired in his face. And because it backfired and it didn't end up the way that he wanted it to, he wanted to kind of treat it like they were like the stepkids, the other family. And even though they all started together and they all built their families together and their kids grew up together, it's like they slowly started falling off. And I have a really strong opinion about Cody, whether whose fault it is or isn't. Clearly that child, well, he's an adult, but clearly he was hurting. And the fact that Cody is so oblivious to anybody other than himself because obviously he loves Robin. He played favoritism to her and her children and the children that he has with her. I think the way that he treated Mary and Janelle and Christine was disgusting. And the way that he treated his children that he has with them is disgusting. And I think that, you know, like you said, he built himself this lifestyle and it backfired. It didn't work out. And in the seasons you started seeing where he was kind of like regretted being in the polygamous lifestyle. And it's sad because it's kind of like you chose this and it's almost like you made a guinea pig lifestyle. Like you're like, let's just test this out. And you brought human beings into the world. You know, it's like you taught them family first. Everybody, you know, we're in this together. Like he was really adamant about everybody being in the same household or in the same neighborhood together, kids growing up together. So the fact that he would turn his back on anybody is ridiculous.
It's interesting
And he
because
didn't try.
the lifestyle of having multiple wives, we've watched a lot of different shows. There's Seeking Sister Wife, there's Sister Wives. There's lots of different ways for us to learn about it. And it's usually centered around family. So it's interesting that you said that he started to abandon the earlier family members. And I think that's completely against what polygamy is about. It's about selling closeness of family and sticking together. And I wonder if he kind of took like a lot of men's approach. A lot of men, because, you know, even in my family and my dad, he had a family, he had kids that didn't work out. He abandoned that family and went and got married again, had more kids. And I think that maybe Cody was having that same mindset. But being a polygamist is not the same as being married and divorced, you know, because there's no such thing as divorce. As far as I was concerned, I didn't think that you could get divorced in polygamy. Is that even a thing?
A lot of them weren't even practicing the religion. You know, a lot of them just kind of like came into it. So you really have to go back and watch a lot of the seasons to fully understand their family and their functions and their ways of doing things. I think like even if you didn't want to get fully involved and start from the beginning, the last couple of seasons were crazy. It really showed their true colors. It showed who was there to being in the family. And like, I really commended Christine and Janelle for getting out of that toxicity that they were in, because he truly just, like I said, did not care about anybody but himself and Robin, maybe a few other people. But like, this is not about Garrison, but even the one wife, Mary, she was the first wife, the one that he was like originally legally married to.
Yeah.
It came out that he wasn't even into her like that. And that he had, you know, married her. And then the whole time he was married to Christine, he wasn't even attracted to her.
Oh my
Nope.
God.
But he had like a bunch of kids. And Mary could only give him one kid. So his first wife could only give him one. And then when they grew up, I think Cody didn't like the fact that they started speaking their own mind. They started living their own lives. They didn't really want to follow the polygamy lifestyle. You know, they had minds. They speak for themselves. They're teenagers. You know, they do what teenagers do. They rebel and they live their lives and stuff. And he's completely estranged from him and Mary's child, Mariah. And she recently, I think a few years ago, changed her name to a he.
Her name is Leon now.
Leon, yes. Yeah. So
Oh wow. So she changed her orientation, her gender.
Yes.
She is
So
a he.
I'm gonna assume that Cody doesn't want to be a part of that, because I'm assuming
they're estranged. Yeah.
So close-minded.
The fact that, you know, I hope, and I hate to be like this because I feel like people should have time to heal, but I really hope that this tragedy that had happened to their lives hits him hard, and to realize, stop taking people for granted. Stop being part of this petty stuff, because you're really hurting the people that you put here in the world.
And what's sad about it is too, his daughter with Christine had to have a major surgery
Mhm.
and he refused to go
Yeah.
to be there. And just because it was, in the middle of the pandemic. First of all, I don't care what's going on in the world. My child is not going to go through something so severe and so serious that I'm not going to go to the hospital and
No.
be with my child. And the only reason why he didn't go is because Robin was against it.
Yeah.
The whole family started going down whenever Robin came into the picture. That's when the family started, like, it's like from one day to the next. He no longer had feelings for his wives, his other 3 wives. He was no longer interested in them. He didn't know what to do with all the children that they had had. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
I wonder how much of the damage of the effects of this, especially it falling apart, are affecting the children, because we know obviously they said Garrison was a part of the army. He was in the armed forces. So we know that comes with a lot of emotional attachment and issues as well. But having the way that his life and his family was played out on TV, I can't imagine has a positive effect on your mental health. Every single person in the world has an opinion about your mom and your dad and your family and your life. I can't imagine how that could be. I get mad when I go online and I post something and there's one negative comment. It annoys me, right? So can you imagine what they're going through as a whole? Not just Garrison, but what he was going through, but the whole family as a whole. You can't go anywhere, can't do anything, you can't make a decision. Even the wives who decided to leave, people are judging them. You can't do anything without somebody having a opinion. And I think what people don't realize with this reality TV is you're giving away privacy. And I think privacy is such a priceless thing. There's no cost, there's no amount of money that's worth having that peace of mind of knowing that you could be yourself and you could do things without being judged, because we all make mistakes. It's just harder to make a mistake when there's like a million people judging you for your mistake. Like there's literally a million people. So if she made one bad decision, we make bad decisions every day. But if one of these women or Cody or anybody makes a bad decision, there's a million people online typing about that decision and why it was wrong. And I can't imagine the lifelong effect mentally that this is going to have on them, because this could have just been a polygamous situation that went bad and everybody could have moved forward and maybe actually came out okay. But now that the world is involved, everything that they are going through is put through a microscope, and everyone is judging each person and everyone is pointing fingers and putting fault in it. And I think it's making it worse. And especially we're seeing the effects on the children, even the children as they grow up. This saga continues. It is still in their lives. They're forever ingrained. They could change their name. They could move to another state. It's still going to follow them forever. And I think people really need to be more careful when they sign up their families. Because we saw this a lot, like Teen Mom. The mom will want to do the show, but then you're also signing up the child who's not old enough to consent to that. So you're getting other people involved without their permission. And then it's going to have that long-term effect on them mentally. And being on TV and being famous, we've learned from watching the biggest celebrities in the world to reality stars, it affects you so horribly. From Michael Jackson to Whitney Houston to just reality TV stars, we've lost so many people just to the effect of trying to live a normal life when you can't, and they turn to drugs and they turn to alcohol. Some people turn to self-hurt, self-harm. And I feel like there's not enough programs out there reaching out, especially like if you've been on a reality TV. I feel like it should be part of the service that the company that you work for or who filmed the show is giving. There should be people that check on you. You should have somebody like a social worker, a therapist, somebody to just check on you and make sure that you're okay. And I feel like we're missing the mark with that. We're giving people the fame and we're giving people the TV and the followers and what they want, but we're also not taking care of them mentally, and then we're watching them deteriorate. And I feel like as a society, we have to think about people. We can't think about ratings and money and viewers. It should be a full scale of caring about people.
Mm-hmm.
True. Very true.
So apparently there's more allegations against Diddy. And this time it was a male who said that he was coerced into homosexual behavior in exchange for fame or in exchange for stardom in the industry. Now, everybody knows, I don't know, like, I don't want to age anyone, but you know, in Diddy's time, Diddy was the person that you needed to be working with if you wanted to be famous. And to even add insult to injury, he had a show called Making the Band. He could literally take literally anyone, put them together, and make hits, and they could be a famous artist in the industry just with his hand being at the creation of that. So this person said that he was told that he had to engage in certain sexual acts with men and other men. He listed big name people in the industry who were also participating in this in order for him to be given an opportunity. And I think we've been warned, right? Like, I don't know if you guys know Aubrey O'Day from Danity Kane. She has always spoken on Diddy, and she's always tried to give us as much information as she could as to why she got away from him. You know, she's been trying to tell us for over a decade, you know, like, look, this man is not who you think he is. And I feel like she only could tell us enough, you know, because he's very powerful. He's a powerful man. You know, the label that he started, it was started with 5 people, if I'm not mistaken. Only 2 of them are still alive, and he's one of them. And a lot of the deaths around those people were very mysterious. You know, we don't really know what happened. So it's scary when you're trying to speak out against somebody who has so much power. But after Cassie made her first initial allegation about what happened, and then that was quickly settled. So they're not going to go to court or anything. It's settled. She is not going to have to testify or whatever. But it kind of started an outpour of other victims or other people who had been a part of this. And there was a 17-year-old girl who said that, and she actually had a photo with him, and she was working in the studio with him, and she said that there were some horrific things that he forced her to do, or he coerced her to do, in order to get the industry recognition that she wanted. So I want to talk about, you know, how do we feel about these allegations? Because I know I was a big fan of Diddy. You know, I was a big fan of his music. And how does this change your perception of, you know, the artist? Because this kind of happened with Michael Jackson. We went from, oh my God, he's a genius, he's amazing. And then these allegations kind of came in, and it challenged our feelings. So Heather, does this make you feel differently about Diddy? Do you feel like there has to be some validity to it because there's so many different people? Like, where do you stand?
I always felt that way about Diddy. I always thought that he had a dark side to him. Ever since he first came up, don't get me wrong, like, I was a fan. I listened to his music and stuff, but I always believed that he took part in the killing of Notorious B.I.G. I said that when I was a teenager. I was
Allegedly.
Don't come for me, Diddy.
Allegedly.
You won't get much. Don't come for me. No, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. I always thought that way because the fact that he came in and he was kind of like the underdog, and he was his hype man, and he was in the videos, and his friend was getting like all the recognition. He was getting, you know, the fans. And I mean, let's be honest, I think Biggie only had like 1 album, maybe, his whole career. And then there's still pictures of him on t-shirts to this day.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing anybody wearing a Diddy t-shirt.
And wasn't Diddy in the vehicle with him when this took place? Because I want to say we watched the documentary, and he was in the car, and this truck was riddled with bullets, and it seemed to only hit one person. That is very strange, right? Like, it's very strange.
That's what happened with Tupac, and he was in the car with Suge Knight. You know, the bullets made it just to the one person.
That's so questionable, right? Because bullets, they don't have, like, it's not like we're launching a missile. You know, missiles, you can put coordinates in a missile.
There's this one thing that I would tell everybody to watch if you have time. I watched a lot of good documentaries and stuff, and I've always been a fan of rap and everything. And there's this one documentary on Tupac and Biggie for, like, you know, because they're like, oh, they're murder, you know, it's a mystery, and it's been all these years. the way they tell you that the police were corrupted and they were hiding a lot of information that people knew. And I mean, let's just be honest. Like, I feel like this could be solved, but somebody is keeping the door very, very shut because
Somebody very powerful and with a lot of money.
They know who killed these men. They know. But I think that there's something preventing somebody from trying to solve it.
Maybe fear. Maybe fear for your life. You know, I think that.
But to answer your question, I am not surprised. Well, not much surprises me anymore now that we're in 2024. I feel like just more stuff keeps happening. But I'm not surprised about the allegations against Diddy. I always felt that he kind of had a dark side to him. And him being in the music business, I feel like a lot of the people in the music business are like this. They have a dark side to them. It's a very dark world. People always saying Hollyweird and, you know, all the people that are bigwigs people, you know, they're just very dark, disgusting world to them. So, no, I'm not surprised. It saddens me because I don't feel like people should have to be victims when they're just trying to pursue their dream or, you know, make a living. You know, they shouldn't have to come out 25, 30 years later and say, hey, I was a victim of so-and-so. You know, that's sad.
I think that when a single person has so much power, like Diddy, he literally had a magic wand. He could wave a wand over your head and make you a celebrity. And he did it. He's done it. Like I people can't argue with the fact that Bad Boy Records has put out people with no prior experience, no prior music history, nothing. He just created this career for them. And I think when you have that type of power, you know, heavy as the head, right, that wears the crown, you have to ground yourself because you can become very arrogant and you can take advantage of people, and you know the power that you have over people, because when you can do that for someone, they will always say yes to you. And when you ask, and we kind of saw this a little bit with R. Kelly, because R. Kelly he had a lot of power, and these younger, especially girls who wanted to be in the music industry, he was the king, I think, of what R&B is what they call them. He would go and hang around where these girls would be and make promises to them. And when you want something really bad and you know that somebody could literally snap their finger and you could have it, the way that he could get people to do things. And I think Diddy was in that position where if you wanted to be in the music industry, like, you know how they have these the shows like The Voice, and they have these big judges, people who just made a massive contribution to the industry. Diddy is one of those people. And I feel like in his time when he was on top of the industry, he couldn't really be touched. You know, he was dating Jennifer Lopez. He was putting out artist after artist. I was going through the list of all of the different artists that he produced and put out. It's so many people, so much money. He's a billionaire. This man has made over $1 billion. He's still making money to this day. And now that the allegations came out, somebody mentioned this to me the other day. They said, have you noticed that no one is standing up for him? Like, do you remember when the allegations came out about Michael Jackson? There were some people who stood very firm that he was innocent. They stood by him. No one is standing firm by Diddy. Everyone around him, even former employees, former bodyguards, former artists, everyone is saying, yep, I believe that. And I think that speaks volumes, because even the allegations against Michael Jackson, there were horrific allegations. There were still people who put their name on the line and said, that man did not do that. But now that we're hearing these allegations come out about Diddy, I haven't seen one person defend him. How do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that of all the artists that he's helped put out there in the world and helped these careers be created, no one is standing up for him? Do you think that says a lot?
Yes, it says a lot. I mean, if not one person is defending him or, you know, standing by his side, that should tell you something right there. There's no telling how many people he abused or allowed to get abused or told them to do certain things just to, you know, get into their career, you know, and that's sad. That's really, really sad that but I know what it's like to like want it, to like, you want to be, famous, you want to make all this money, you want to like, have the rich lifestyle that you see all these famous people have. I get it. I understand it. But at what cost? Is it worth putting your body and your soul through a lot of things you shouldn't be doing? Is it worth it in the end? And the answer is no, it's not.
That's the question. And I think that the people, when you have something so close you can touch it, you set a goal and you've been working towards this goal your whole life, and then it's literally right in front of you, and you have to do one thing that you shouldn't do in order to get to that point. And I think that's kind of where these people are. Do you think, so another question, do you think now that these people are being named by name, because there's some pretty big name people being named, will they be subpoenaed? Do you think that they will have to come forward and testify? Because now that they've been implicated and they've been brought into the situation, there could be a subpoena by a judge, in order for them to proceed with the charges. They need to verify that this information happened. Do you think that these big name artists will tell the truth? Do you think that they're afraid? Like, how do you think this will go?
They'll pay money and it'll be swept under the rug. That's how it is. When you're like one of the, what we call the OGs, when you're an OG, I mean, you get away with a lot of stuff. Why do you think so many famous people has gotten away with so much stuff? Everything is just being swept under the rug. They're the OGs. They know how to work the system.
I will say that karma is real, and that everything that keeps happening to these people that say are doing bad things, it's karma's way of getting them for something else that they didn't get held accountable for originally. And this is dated back to even like O.J. Simpson. They always said, okay, he got away with murder.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And then what happened? They didn't get him for what they were trying to try him for. He ended up going to jail for some petty theft.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
And I said if Diddy had anything to do with those crimes back in the day, and he got away with it this whole time, this could be karma circulating its way around to get him for something. It's all of them. It's every person that has something released about them. There has been something else prior that they've done that was in the news. Except for Michael. I really feel like people just didn't understand Michael. I feel like he literally needed help. And I think his parents had a lot to do with his mental health. I don't think that he actually touched children in a bad way. I feel like he literally thought he was a child himself. And he didn't think he was doing anything wrong by mentally being a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old wanting to hang out and play video games. I don't know. But like, to each his own. Everybody thinks differently of that case. But I'm just saying, like, in general, most of the people, I feel like this is their karma coming back and hitting them.
Well, they say karma forgets nothing. And I love that you brought up that OJ.
Karma don't.
Yeah, because everybody was so, I remember we were in school and they read the verdict. And there was a lot of, I mean, depending on where you were, there was either outrage or there was cheering, depending on the location you were. Yeah. But everybody felt like he got away with it. And then to see him go to prison for stealing back his memorabilia, like they took away his trophies and something so petty, right? Like you said, it was literal pettiness. But karma forgets nothing. And a lot of people do believe that you can go out and you can do terrible things to people and get away with it. And it's never going to find its way back. And I think that
even Suge Knight is in jail.
Yeah, you're. Oh my gosh, that is so true.
And it's unrelated to Tupac Shakur. So,
it's very interesting. I think that you're onto something. I think that the world and the universe has its own justice system,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, you know, people do things and they get away with it. They get either a slap on the wrist or nothing at all. And then eventually the universe comes, you know, and it's ready for you to pay your dues. Like, it's time for you to pay for what you've done. And it's just so interesting because it'll seem so small, right? Like, it'll seem like, oh, they're in trouble. And look at R. Kelly. R. Kelly is in jail probably for the rest of his life. He probably thought that he got away with the things that he did almost 30 something years ago. And he probably was walking around thinking that he got away with everything. He's never going to have to pay for what he did. Then the universe shows up. And they're like, hey, remember when you did this? It's time to pay the piper. Like, we're here. You know, we're here for your actions. Speaking of, I want to bring up this Matt Rife story. Heather, you brought this up to me like months ago, which I think is super interesting because you're always on top of stuff. But I was on Twitter yesterday, and it's just now a trending topic. So, DeeDee, I don't know if you know who Matt Rife is. He's a comedian. I don't want to say was. He's a comedian. He started out on Wild 'N Out, the Nick Cannon show. And after that, he just blew up into superstardom. Like, he was doing stand-up, and all of a sudden, literally overnight, he went from the guy who was on Wild 'N Out to doing massive shows. He's an internet sensation. He's just this massive name. And there's another comedian, I don't remember his name, but he's telling a story of what happened. And I want to get into the story, and then I want to get your raw reactions from the story. So he said that he and Matt Rife were offered a meeting with Hollywood execs, 2 men, Hollywood execs, and they went in and they said, hey, we're going to offer you internet stardom, which is going to jumpstart your career. The only thing that you have to do in order to do this is to perform oral sex on each of the men. That was the offer. So the guy who told the story said that he immediately stood up and walked away and said, that's not an option for me. I don't want fame that badly. And then the guy goes on to say before he could exit the room, Matt was performing these actions on both men. Now, this story is alleged because we don't know if this happened or not. So I want to say that the comedian who said it and then me recanting what he said is an alleged story. We can't prove anything. But I do know I was a fan of Matt Rife early on when he was on Wild 'N Out. I've actually DM'd him. We've DM'd back and forth back in the day. So I know that he, like, as of now, if you were to DM him, he's not going to answer you. He's a massive name. So he did become a humongous celebrity very quickly. So what do you think about, okay, so the internet was a little upset with the guy who told the story because they said, why would you implicate the victim and not the perpetrators? So I want to get your raw reaction on that, of him telling the story. And do you feel like it's okay to say the name of the victim? Because I think in this situation, Matt's the victim because he was coerced. Like, if this was a woman and it was 2 men, she would be the victim, right? And it's like, why don't we look at it the same way when it's a male or a female?
Exactly. If it's a male or a female, if they're being treated a certain way or certain things are being done to them, they're a victim. It's hands down, they're victims. And, you know, if I was Matt, and whether this was true or not, you know, I would take that comedian, I would sue him for slander, because how are you going to put my information and my business out there? It's nobody's business at the end of the day what he done to get to where he's at. Now, how do we know this isn't jealousy coming from that comedian because he's made it farther than what he has? So, you can't always listen to what comedians say, and you can't always listen or believe everything you hear or see on social media. George, me and you know that from,
yeah.
Whether he did or not, if he did do it, shame on him. I'm not going to say words that I would say about somebody doing that, but the person that the comedian that is putting his business out there, if I was Matt, I would sue him for slander, hands down.
Heather, how do you feel about this whole situation? Like, do you feel like it was okay for him to tell the story? Because I feel like it's okay for you to tell the story, but how do you feel about him naming Matt in the story, but not the 2 executives?
I think the way that it happened is how the man wanted it to be, because clearly the way that he addressed the TikTok, he was jealous, like you said, of the fact that you could say, okay, Matt Rife, I know who he is, and we can't even remember the guys long enough to tell his name to a story.
Right.
I mean, he literally got what he wanted. He wanted to blow up somehow. His TikTok ended up going viral.
Yeah.
I saw it on my For You page way before you even saw it as a regular story.
Yeah.
I think he thought by just, name dropping, that was going to get the clout that he needed to make this stuff popular, have people talk about it and everything like that. I don't think that he was thinking at the time that Matt was a victim or not. I think he was just saying, like, well, I'll be a comedian on my own. I don't need to do stuff that's out of my comfort level to get a gig or whatever. And I think that it kind of backfired on him because people looked at the bigger situation like, whoa, like, that's not cool, dude. Like, how are you going to just sit there and put people out there like that? I mean, if you wanted to expose the industry, that's one thing. You can expose the industry without dropping names. There's plenty of stories on TikTok like that where they'll drop hints and they'll say, oh, let's just say so-and-so, whatever, but they never once give a name. You have to imagine it or, put the two and two together. So the fact that they dropped the name like that, he got exactly what he wanted. He was jealous. He wanted to become famous. And I guess he figured that, well, I'm not going to perform sexual acts on people, but I'm going to, put people down to get to where I need to be. Joke's on him. We still don't know his name to say his name in the story.
Well, right. It's funny because I meant to write it down so we could talk about it. But now that I don't have it, I'm fine that I don't. I don't want to talk. I don't want to say his name because I don't like what he did. And it is what it is. In the industry, a lot of women have slept around to get a record deal or to get into a movie, and it's wrong. And I think what's really shocking for me in this story is it's still happening, and now it is transferred to men as well. Not that, and I need to stop putting gender on things. A sick thing is a sick thing. But it's just so crazy to me that in 2024, we're hearing about something that happened so recently that's still happening in Hollywood. And how we know Hollywood is corrupt. We know that Hollywood isn't a place that, is for the faint of heart. You really need to have somebody looking out for you. But the fact that these things are happening still and, people are selling fame, it's kind of relating to the story where we were just talking about with DeeDee. People are selling fame to people and like you said, at what cost are they selling this fame? What are you willing to sell of yourself to get what you really want? And I think that when people, like I said, when you work at something your whole life and every door has been closed and you feel like you're at your last resort, people are starting to do things that they never would do. I'm pretty sure if Matt did it, allegedly, this isn't something that he probably wanted to do. But at that point, he had been on TV already. He had been doing stand-up already. Nothing was really happening. And I think people are banking on people's desperation. And I think that that's what's scary about our society, because look at the inflation. Look at the way things are in the world now. We're a lot more desperate now than we used to be. And what's scary is there are people who are banking on the fact that we are desperate, and they are preying on people for that reason. And it's like, we're no longer safe. A good opportunity is now, it has strings attached. Back in the day, you could audition, you could get a job or an acting gig, but now there's strings attached. Now people want more than just helping you. They want something for themselves. And I think that that's what's scary in the industry today. And it's funny because 50 to 75 years ago, it was the same thing. The industry has not evolved. It has not progressed. And in my opinion, I think it's gotten worse. Right, DeeDee, you should know firsthand. You've been pursuing your career in the entertainment industry, and it's like, how do you know who you can trust when somebody is offering you an opportunity? You don't know when you go to that meeting if this is a legit opportunity or if there's strings attached, if they want something from you. You really don't know what's going on. And I think that's the scariest part about it today.
Well, I mean, I've been to a couple of places that to go do an audition, and I walked in and I turned around and walked out, and I called my manager and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. And then I would send them pictures of, what it was. And my manager is like, you made the right choice. You can leave. I mean, because you never know what you are walking into. You never know, especially, people that are doing like the pilots, especially when it comes to the pilots. I don't know if you know what a pilot is, but for those of you who don't know what a pilot is whenever a new upcomer is trying to get their name out there, their company name out there, and they're trying to see if Hollywood is going to let it air or buy it. Then you go. I mean, it can be anywhere they want to have it. I've walked and I went to last year. There was somewhere, it was in a basement, in someone's home in a basement. I was like, no, thank you. I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, no, I'm working hard, but I ain't trying to get killed or kidnapped or something, you know? But I mean, those are the ones that, especially with the pilots, those are the ones that are new upcomers. Those are the ones that you really have to look out for, because they can say, oh, well, you know, we're friends with so-and-so and so-and-so, and if you do this, is all we got to do is just call them and tell them, and then no, not me.
I think this story for me, what got me was, as a society, he thought it was acceptable to say the name of the person because he wanted to humiliate the person, but he's protecting the people who actually who had him commit the acts. And I think that we're seeing this a lot in our society, where people will come forward right after the statute of limitations ends, or they will come forward civilly, not criminally. Why are we protecting people who do horrible things? And it really makes me question it. It's like, if they did it and you can prove it, and you know, you wait until the statute of limitations to say anything, why don't you want them to be, you know, punished? Like, what are we doing wrong that victims feel that it's not in their best interest, or it's not something they should do to seek justice? And it's like, is the justice system broken? Are we victim blaming? The victims are scared. Like, what are we doing that?
The justice system is broken. I mean, because if you are well known, if you have money, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be famous. It can be an individual. If you're well known, and if you have money, and if you know people that, you know, can get away with a lot of stuff, then they don't care. I mean, they just sweep it under the rug.
I think people are scared of the repercussion. They're scared of getting blackballed. If you ruffle too many feathers, you don't want, you know, to piss off the wrong person and then risk never being able to get work again. That's what happened with a lot of people.
Yeah. Heather, we were just talking about that with Carrie Hilson. Remember, I asked you, I said, what happened to Carrie Hilson? That's exactly what you told me happened with her.
Well, yeah, and then Megan Fox is another one. She was actually sexually harassed by a director, and he didn't like that she spoke her mind, and, you know, was very vocal, like, hey, you know, I have a talent. You don't have to just like my assets here. And he blackballed her, and that's why she wasn't part of the Transformer franchise anymore. And like, a lot of her movies are very like kind of lower and straight to DVD features. I'm glad that she was able, though, to stand up for herself and know her worth as a person and as a woman, and be a good example to her children, and to say, hey, you don't have to put up with that crap. And if I can't be in the next blockbuster hit because of it, then so be it. At least I know my worth. And a lot of people can't do that because they think of their finances. They think of, you know, their popularity, and they think of all this other stuff. And I think that the ones that can identify right from wrong, they're hard to find, but I commend them for that, because it takes a strong individual to be able to know your worth and to stand up for yourself. So, but I think that's what a lot of the problems are. They're waiting so long to come out and say what had happened because they were scared of the repercussions that would happen if they came forward, especially if people didn't believe them.
It's just sad that how much money you have, or your credits as a producer or a director or an artist, can deter people from believing someone else. You know, it just shows our society, there's a lot wrong. You know, somebody, you know, if they have the right amount of money in the bank, they can get away with what they're getting away with, because who are you to blame them? And it's just so sad because, you know, Megan Fox was a great actress. You know, I didn't see anything that I thought she was horrible in. So the fact that she could get blackballed, not letting her work speak for herself, that people were judging her based on the fact that she spoke up, which is something that she should have done. You know, why are we saying that she should be quiet and let people harass her? Like, this is crazy to me. Oh, one more topic I want to get to before we run out of time. So we saw the Wendy Williams documentary. It aired recently. I don't know if you guys watched it or not. I thought it was amazing, right? Okay, so little backstory. We know that Wendy is suffering from alcohol-induced dementia, I believe is what they said. So it was alcohol abuse that is giving her dementia. Now, she was being taken care of. I think her power of attorney was her son, Kevin, who is, I believe, 21 years old. He was in charge of her finances. And her bank, Wells Fargo, decided to freeze her account, because there was a lot of money going in and out. And, you know, for someone who has dementia, that can be a red flag. You know, if you're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, you might not remember you're doing it. As a precaution, they notified the court, and then the court got involved. They removed her son, Kevin, as her power of attorney, and they assigned a government-appointed guardian and a guardianship over her estate. So let's get a little bit into what caused it, because I want to get your reactions. So her son, Kevin, had spent over $100,000 on Uber Eats, and his rent for the year was about $87,000. And he threw a birthday party, and all of this was Wendy Williams's money. And he threw a birthday party that year for $120,000. And these were the charges that Wells Fargo were alarmed about, because he is her power of attorney. So he had full access to her money. Now, as a parent, do you think, and let's hypothetically speaking, y'all are both extremely rich and successful on TV, would it be okay for your child to spend about $300,000 in such a short amount of time? I don't care how rich you are, right? Right? Like,
no. No way. No way.
And
Okay.
Heather, I wanted to ask you too, like, what do you feel about the way that he reacted to the questions on the documentary? Because I remember when they asked him.
My beef isn't with her son. And you're not going to win a lot of viewers over by trying to target her kid. Because first of all, that's her only child.
No. I'm not targeting Kevin. But
most
Kevin,
people that are parents, they don't care. Money is nothing. Your children are everything. And
yeah.
Wendy even said it herself. She's like, what is my money? I would spend every penny I had on you. So I don't think that Wendy cared how much his Uber Eats was or how much his birthday party cost, because she's just spending it on Gucci and Prada and t-shirts and all this crap herself. There was a part in the documentary where they were eating at some nice restaurant and she brought him a Dior shirt and then some other shirt. I don't know what it was, but just for no reason. And he didn't even ask for it. She just brought it. So my beef is with Wells Fargo, because if I am choosing you to be my bank, you are to hold my money, and that is it. Like, you are not to tell me or go and tell on me because of what I'm doing with my money. First of all, she wasn't doing anything illegal. And if she was, let's say she was in a bad situation and he was taking advantage of her, that's none of their damn business. Like, that's none of their business, because she could close an account and open it with Chase. She can open it with PNC, whoever. I think that people need to learn to stay in their lane. How are you going to petition a court and have some rando off the street be in charge of her and they don't even know her from the next person?
Yeah.
I think the courts are getting a little too comfortable with these, like, conservatorships and these power of attorneys, and they're taking the meanings of them and they're twisting them. I feel as though they are not getting the benefits out of what they're supposed to be implanted for. Britney Spears probably does need a conservatorship. But how they did her was dirty. Wendy clearly needs a conservatorship. She's ill. She's clearly not herself. But that's something that they need to discuss as a family and find her one. Not her bank. Her bank should not be the one to find her one. Like, that's crazy to me.
Well, after they found the conservator, I think when we were watching the documentary, she still didn't have access to her money. Did you notice that?
Like, you gonna freeze it from her? Like,
well, right. She wanted to travel. They wouldn't let her travel. She wanted to do things. They wouldn't let her spend money even on food. She even, I believe one of her assistants had to purchase her plane ticket to go to LA because she had a meeting with NBC, which unfortunately it didn't get her the show that she wanted. But how does the bank and the court tell you that you're not allowed to touch any of your money? Because that was my biggest question. If you worked your whole life, let's be real, Wendy Williams was on TV for almost 15 years. She worked every day, 5 days a week. Yeah, well, yeah, longer than that. Now, how can a court say you can't spend your, if she wanted to go to the Louis Vuitton store and buy a $50,000 bag, who's to say she can't do that? Whether or not you're in your right mind or not, it's your money. And I think that's what's really terrifying, because I think that these conservatorships, they don't just happen to famous people. They happen to anyone. Anyone can be unwillingly placed in a conservatorship and then told how to live your life, where you can go. Did you notice that when she wanted to leave New York to go to LA, they told her that she wasn't allowed. She wasn't even allowed to travel, as though she was some sort of criminal, right? Like, as though she was a criminal. This woman had never done anything to break the law. And I think what's really scary is the courts can literally control every aspect of your life, even your money, where you can live, where you can go, where you can travel. And I think that the family was left out of the conservatorship situation because of the initial spending of, that's why this was on set. So for some reason,
probably took part in it, but I mean, that's her business.
I mean,
wanted to spread the wealth, if she wanted to give her money to her family, or heaven forbid, even if her family was taking the money, unfortunately, that's life. That happens to a lot of people.
You're right. You're right.
Save everyone. Like, why are you picking and choosing who you're trying to save in the world?
You're right.
Like, there's millions of people that are everyday Joe Schmoes that are being taken advantage of by their family, their spouses, their jobs, everything. And it's like, they don't get help. You know, how are you just picking and choosing? Oh, she's Wendy Williams. She's a TV person. We can visibly see there's something wrong with her. Oh, I'm going to be a good employee and I'm going to report this to the courts and petition this.
Well,
it's like ridiculous.
If her family, if they believe that her family was taking advantage of her, then she could open a lawsuit to sue the people that were taking advantage. I do feel like the bank is the oddball out in this entire situation. I did not know that a bank could monitor what you have in it and what you're doing with it. And she wasn't, like you said, Heather, not one illegal activity. And they reported this woman to the courts and decided that she did not have, and froze her account. She did not have any access to her money. I think that what's really scary is I have money in the bank. Heather, you have money in the bank. DeeDee, you have money in the bank. This could happen to us. And I think that that's the scariest part, because we could literally be out shopping one day and our bank decides they don't like what we're doing with our money and then decides that we shouldn't have control over it anymore. That's the really scary part about this whole thing.
Yeah, it is, and, go back to what I was saying when I answered your question, George. No, I would not put my children over my money, because of the fact that today, and even though you raise your children the best way you can, if you just hand them, say, hundreds of thousands or even $1 million, if you just hand it to them, they're not going to appreciate it. That's free money. They're going to blow it on whatever. Now, when it comes to my children, I'll spend whatever I need to make them happy, but I'm not going to literally hand them money. When it comes to the bank, the bank should not did that. Just because, her son was spending all this money. Power of attorneys, I was a power of attorney over my grandma. Power of attorney means you can spend your that money, or you can do whatever you want with that person's belongings, with the person, whatever. And there's nothing that they can do about it because you are the power of attorney, especially whenever you're a power of attorney over medical as well. Say, for instance, something happens and they go to the hospital. I mean, the doctor can't do anything without your permission. That's why that is said in there. So if the bank was seeing all of these activity happening, then yes, she has dementia, but did they have a right to seize her money and then treat her like she's a criminal? No. I mean, millions of people have dementia, and you don't see them treating them like that. You know, if it was a poor person that had dementia, they would just like, okay, you know, well, I don't know what to tell you. There's no help. They wouldn't even try to help. So they should have sat down with her doctor and her son and came up with a game plan, and then maybe put someone else over the finances that's not swiping that card.
Right. And Wendy did say in the documentary that she did not care what her son Kevin spent. It didn't matter to her. And then Kevin said in the documentary, you know, he's like, my mom has always been very generous with me, you know, and I think he said that he accounted it to that she worked so much when he was younger that she felt a little guilty, you know, because she had to be on live TV every single day. She missed a lot. You know, when he was in school, her show was on every day during the week. So she couldn't be at everything that he had going on. And he didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong. And Wendy said in the documentary, I didn't feel like my son was doing anything wrong. Why are outside sources saying how my son should behave and how our family dynamic should look? So I think that, you know, it's her, even if she had dementia, like you said, her doctor, her son, there should have been a meeting of the people involved before the courts got involved. Because the courts don't know her, they don't know the family, they don't know anything. And then the bank doesn't know her. The bank doesn't know you, me, Heather. They don't know us. They just know what's the number that's in the account. So the fact that they could say that the actions going on in her personal life are questionable, how would you know? You don't know her. You know, I don't know. I'm just really terrified at the conservatorship idea, because we learned about it with Britney Spears, and they convinced us at first with the Britney conservatorship that it was wrong. Now that she's out of the conservatorship, a lot of us are very worried. You know, we don't know if she's okay to be on her own, you know, but I think that the conservatorship needs to have different aspects. There needs to be a medical proxy where someone can make decisions for you medically. There should also be someone who can make financial decisions. This shouldn't just be everything. And the judge should appoint that accordingly of what you actually need. I think in Britney's situation, they didn't let her do anything on her own. They treated her like she was 4. And I think that it was too much entailed to her every aspect of her life. I think that she was able to do some things on her own. Like Whitney, even with dementia, she's still out here living her life with her assistants and her manager on her own. And I think that every situation should be different. They really do need to go in and they need to change the requirements and guidelines. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. A conservatorship needs to fit the situation in the person's life that you're assigning it to. And I think freezing a person's money for months, someone who has so much money at that, and it's like she was walking around with thousands and thousands in cash on her because she couldn't put it in the bank. If she put it in the bank, it would be disappeared, frozen, and away from her, and she couldn't live her own life. That's scary to me. Like, and everybody has their opinion on this. I know, like Heather, you said no one's blaming Kevin. You know, I was bringing that up because those transactions is what got her bank involved. So I kind of wanted to give like a beginning, you know, an onset.
There's something missing to this story. It doesn't sit right. I think that somebody isn't reporting the whole truth because it doesn't add up.
Well, yeah, I think that there has to be something else, because from the information that we have, it doesn't seem like they have the right to tell her she can't use her money, and the bank has the right to freeze it.
But Wells Fargo, they didn't want to speak up when they were getting interviewed. But I think that they got tipped off by somebody.
That could be.
Well, Wells Fargo, I've heard nothing but bad things about them for many years. So
I have too. How ironic. I have too. I have friends who have it, and there's issues with deposits, direct deposits, money showing up days.
They call it the
late.
scam bank.
This is what I've heard. How interesting. so weird. I've heard the same thing, and I wonder if they're in on it because now they're holding on to money that doesn't belong to them, right? So like I have a lot of questions. Like this whole Wendy documentary, I had a lot of questions, and I think a lot of us were wondering, you know, health-wise, where was she? Because we had saw all the co-hosts on her or guest hosts on her show, and we just wanted to know what was going on. In this documentary, she opened up about a lot, you know, but I think still, like Heather, like you said, at the end of the day, we still only know 30% of what's really going on. I think that there's a lot that people are just not going to tell us. All right, so
it's sad. It's very sad.
It is. It's sad. She's worked her whole life, and now it's almost like pulled up from underneath her feet. You know, like honestly, she can't have any of the things that she worked so hard for. And I hate seeing that for her. And I know her biggest goal is to get back on TV because I know that is her. I think she said in the documentary since she was 6 years old, this is all she's ever wanted to do. And I would love to see her get back to doing what she just enjoys to do, loves to do. But I also want to see her repair, you know, her relationship with her family. I think the one thing that really bothered me was the family said that it was up to almost a year they hadn't seen her. And I just hated that. I just hated the fact that they weren't there for her at this time that she really needed. Okay, we've run out of time, so we're going to end this episode 8. Thank you so much to my co-hosts, Heather C. and DeeDee Casteel, the George Mossey Show, the Pop Culture Podcast. We're going to come back with episode 9. I think it'll only be 10 episodes in this season, then we'll take a little break. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you're following my co-hosts. They're tagged in this video. Make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, georgemossey.com. Anywhere you get your podcast, type in the George Mossey Show, and I'll talk to everybody really soon.
Bye.